Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn and this vlog is a whirlwind. It took me much longer to write this first draft than I originally wanted it to. Reasons I will discuss throughout the vlog, but regardless of how long it took and the speed bumps along the way, by the end of this video, I will have a completed draft of my first ever cozy fantasy story. I hope you enjoy the vlog and I am so happy to have you here supporting my writing journey. Now let's get into it. Happy February 2nd. So today marks the first day that I'm going to be sitting down working on my new deadline of finishing my fantasy project by the end of February. I am so excited to be getting back into this story, to be talking about this project. You can probably hear my thing in the background. I spent a little bit of time writing this morning. That writing session felt a little slow. I got a little less than 700 words. I think like 640-ish around there. While that writing sprint felt a little bit slow, I had fun writing it. And it was a nice writing sprint to get back into the story, to really take my time and to figure out where I want the rest of the story to go. Currently, I am on chapter 15. I'm a little bit into chapter 15 and my characters are almost to the midpoint. I am maybe a couple of scenes and maybe a chapter before the midpoint. For this chapter, I have a scene that I want, but I know that I have some missing elements of that scene. I wrote myself a little mini blurb of what I want the scene to be, where I said I've got these characters in the scene and they're doing this and this is what I want the outcome of the scene to be. And the reason I did that instead of writing out that full scene is because I couldn't quite picture that entire scene in my head. I think I was missing some pieces that I should have foreshadowed a little before. So instead of writing out that entire scene, I let myself just kind of brainstorm that idea, that scene, write down some of the key points and then dive into it. So I am actually going to be meeting with Kayla in about 20 minutes. Her and I are going to be just catching up, talking about our projects, talking about our goals for the next month or so. Hopefully we're going to do a sprint or two. We don't plan on being online for too terribly long. I hope we'll be able to get a couple of sprints in together and I'll be able to up my word count for the day, or at least just stay in the headspace of the story. Yeah, well, because even that is feedback where you might not see like where an issue is or be like, what needs to change? Like she might point out, be like, hey, this part, I think if you did this instead will make the story stronger. I just finished my 2-hour little meetup / writing sprints with Kayla, and they were really productive. It was really nice to get to talking to a writing friend again. We talked about life things, but we also talked a little bit about, well, a lot about our writing, and we caught up on our projects and everything. And we did end up doing 2 sprints. I didn't count how much I got for each of those sprints, but for a total today, I wrote 1,045 words, and that's probably all I'm going to get done today. I wanted to write a little bit more into the evening, but I think I'm going to be done for today. Since I haven't written in a while, it's going to take me a little bit to build up my writing stamina again. So I'm going to put a pin in my writing for today. I'll come back tomorrow and we can do a little bit more writing, and we'll do the same amount of work, like hour-wise, that I did today, but I think I'll try to tack on a little bit more so I can slowly start to build up my stamina again. Before I went on my little hiatus, I was really doing solid writing sprints in time blocks. I like setting aside like an hour worth of time and I could get a good chunk of words written, but it's a little bit slower now because I've got to just work that muscle, build up the stamina again, and then we'll be back to where I was. Want to give an update for February 3rd. I had a writing sprint, well, 2 writing sprints earlier today with Sarah. Her and I are trying this new thing where we're doing write-ins, but they're not live write-ins, and we're going to be posting them afterwards. The method behind our madness with these is to see if our writing sprints are more productive if we're not live. If you haven't checked those out, check those videos out. 2 we've already recorded. One of them is probably going to be posted. Well, actually both of them might be up by the time you're seeing this video, but let us know how you guys like those. Sarah and I have been really enjoying these little writing sessions, these little write-ins that we've been having. So check that out and let us know how you feel about them. But I did end up writing today. I got a little less than 1,000 words, I think. Yeah, so today I did those 2 20-minute writing sprints with Sarah, and I ended up writing 895 words. I had a little bit left of chapter 15 that I wanted to wrap up, and then now I'm on chapter 16. This is the scene, well, it's the midpoint. I'm leading up to the part where we discover what happens, and it's the midpoint. So I'm pretty excited with how it's been going, with how my writing has been going, getting back into the flow of it, becoming a little more consistent with my writing. So hi friends, I can't remember the last day that I updated you guys. I don't feel like I got a chance to talk to you guys after my last writing session, which has been a few days, and I wanted to talk about it because I think I was a little stuck with my story. I say stuck, but I don't mean it in a sense of like I didn't know where the story was supposed to go. One of my all-time specialties that happens with me in my writing from time to time is I get stuck in the story, like in a particular moment or a particular scene in a story. For whatever reason, I don't move forward. And this typically happens with me when I'm starting out a story and I'm writing the first act. For the longest time, I would always have issues getting past the inciting incident. That's not the case here because I'm in act 2, but my issue, I think, was I was having a very similar situation to I struggled getting past the midpoint because I was really excited to get to the midpoint and to write it, but then I never let myself move on from the midpoint and to write the remaining of the story. It took me a lot of reflection trying to figure out why I felt like this weird funk about the story. Nothing against the story. I'm not stuck with the story or anything. I just needed to tell myself I needed to move forward with the rest of Act 2. I have plans to write a little bit today. I might have to kind of spark note a few scenes and a couple of chapters. I need to get past coming down from the midpoint. I don't think I have structured it the best, like when I was outlining and plotting out this part of the story, and I think that's why I'm stuck, is I'm not quite sure how to connect coming down from the midpoint and gearing up for Act 3. So I feel like I'm just staying on one side of the bridge instead of just leaping to the next side. I mean, it's a first draft. It can be pretty messy. It can be gross. I think what I'm gonna do is reread the last couple of chapters and take some notes, reflect on what I've written out for the 3 pretty big plots of this story. And I think one of those plots I need to revisit because that's going to be coming back up pretty soon. I think I just need to do a little, like a smidge of outlining and a smidge of bullet pointing what I want to be happening for the story to get past where I'm feeling this stuck type situation. Another reason why I think this is an issue right now is because this is my first cozy fantasy story that I'm writing, and so I haven't really experienced writing a cozy fantasy that is pretty low stakes. I mean, there are certain things that are happening in this story that are more high stakes. There's like a murder mystery plot type thing that's going on in here. Typically I write high fantasy and darker fantasy. When I have that midpoint and I'm coming off of that midpoint, it's gonna hit differently than writing a cozy fantasy. So I think that's also a little bit of where my struggle is I'm not used to writing cozy fantasy. It's not gonna have that same punch as it would having, I don't know why I'm still holding this, as it would writing like a high fantasy with high stakes or a dark fantasy with like darker tones. And it took me a few days of reflecting on my story to kind of come up with this. So I hope what I'm saying makes sense, but I'm gonna keep writing. I'm going to do what I just said about doing a little bit of bullet points, highlighting some different parts of the story and working through it that way, and see if I can get past where I feel like I'm just kind of floating around at. I know I need to push myself past this point too, because I only want this draft to be about 50,000 words. I am a little above 32,000 words already. I have less than 20,000 words to get through the rest of Act 2 and to get through Act 3. So I still feel like there's quite a bit of things that have to be going on in the story to tie it all up at the end. I have those 3 plots that I am working on, and then there's another little side plot, some side stuff that's going on that I still need to tie up too. I can definitely get the word count, but I really don't want to keep meandering like I feel like I've kind of been doing for the last few thousand words. I just want to give a little writing update. So I have been not writing for the last few days. So wait, hang on. Okay, before I haven't been writing. In my last clip, I was talking about doing some brainstorming, trying to kind of get a little unstuck in where I was in this story. I have been working through that. I have been brainstorming in my head. I haven't really had a chance to sit down, put the puzzle pieces down on the table and move them around and see what's going on. I have plans of doing that tomorrow. I really want to finish this first draft by the end of February. And right now it's February 22nd. Really, I have no excuse. And I'm not even coming on here to say I'm not gonna be able to do it, because I can do it. I know I 100% will be able to do it. My issue is prioritizing. I have a lot that's going on and things that are all a priority. So I'm having a hard time just trying to keep it all balanced. My cat just looked at me with his tongue out. So I feel like I'm having a little bit of a difficult time trying to balance everything. I just need an extra day in the week. That's literally all I need. So I still have plans of trying to push through and finish this first draft by the end of February. I think I said in my last clip that I only need like 15-ish thousand words until I'm finished. So it's really not even that much. I need a few solid writing days and then I can do it. I know I can. So I just wanted to come on here and talk a little bit with you guys and give you a more recent update. But I'm gonna get back to reading a different book for a book club I have with a couple of my friends, and hopefully I will check in with you guys tomorrow when I'm actually doing some writing. What's up, my party people? There's a cat. Oh my god. Okay, we almost just had a catastrophe, as you probably heard. But anyways, I feel like I've been filming this vlog for entirely too long. But we're gonna keep going because I am not yet finished with this first draft. It is March, and I had a deadline for finishing this project at the end of February. Obviously it's March and I just said I didn't finish, so I'm just gonna keep going with the vlog until I finish the first draft. I am not gonna sit here and make excuses as to why this project did not get done with my self-imposed deadline. I mean, nobody's, you know, holding an axe over my head or something saying that I had to finish this first draft by the end of February. Nobody is doing that. It's just more of a self-imposed deadline. And the point of having that deadline is because I didn't want to spend months and months and months just writing this first draft. I was trying to test my skills as a writer to write a first draft a little bit quicker than I have in years past. I am still beating that clock. I think the quickest I've ever written a first draft is in 6 months. I have been working on this since November. So November, December, January, February, March will be the 5th month. I can still beat that little goal that I had set for myself. I have a little more than 15,000 words left of this project. I can totally do it. But here's also the other thing. I wanted to be finished with the first draft of this project by the end of February because in March I wanted to work on one of my other stories. I wanted to start rereading the first draft of my other 2 projects and figure out where I wanted to go with them. So I had to put those plans on hold because I haven't finished the first draft of this project. I don't need to be trying to write the first draft of this and then also reread the first draft of something else. I need to pick one or the other, and I am so close to finishing Project Traveling Bards that I am just going to keep going to finish. Oh, my cat's in the tree again. Are we redoing the catastrophe, buddy? I'm almost finished, I promise. So I would like to finish this first draft by the end of this week, or next Wednesday is like the very least I want to give myself to finish this draft, because I want to take a day or two off from worrying about first draft or rereading something else, take a couple of days off, and then start worrying about working on another project. I am about to meet with my friend Kayla. Her and I are going to write and chat and just hang out for a couple of hours. We do have plans to write later today. So I've done a lot of stuff this morning to get all of the other stuff like out of my mind so I could just focus on meeting with Kayla, talking about our projects, and getting some words in. I just finished my meeting with Kayla, and I'll be totally honest, it wasn't as productive as we wanted it to be, but we did get a writing sprint in, and I started chapter 19. I wrote, I think, a little less than 300-ish words. The starting of this chapter in this particular scene, I am working on one of the subplots. One of the subplots of this story is murder mystery. I am currently working on weaving that storyline back in. I am having a lot of fun with it. That is probably one of my favorite little subplots of this story, so I am kind of excited to be planting those little seeds and moving that storyline along. I feel like it was a really good one sprint, but I am going to probably be finished for the day, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow. I feel like my progress with this story is just inching to the finish line. I'm getting there and I'm excited. Oh, hang on. Someone's at the door. I have returned. I forgot what I was saying, Crash. I feel like I'm slowly inching my way through this story, and while I have been enjoying my writing, I think I have also reached the point where I feel like I always get when I get to this part of a project, I just want to be finished. While I'm still enjoying it and I am still really passionate about this project, it's time to be finished with it. It's time to be finished with this first draft because I am ready to work on other things. I am ready to move on, shall we say. Especially since this was a project that was supposed to be my NaNoWriMo project, which I knew I wouldn't finish it during NaNoWriMo. I'm ready to be finished with it. I have a little more than 37,000 words. I am aiming for 50,000 words in this manuscript. So today I hope to write for a little while. One of my favorite booktubers is actually going to be doing some reading sprints. That's going to start in about 45 minutes while they're all going to be doing their writing sprints. Did I say writing? While they're all going to be doing their reading sprints, I am going to be doing writing. But before that starts, I think I want to go ahead and get back into the world, get back into the headspace of this story, because I'll have a few hours to work on this project. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I've been loving the standing desk. I feel like I am a lot more productive. But anyways, I have been writing for a little more than an hour, I wanna say. I have taken some breaks in between. I looked out the window and things like that. For the most part, this last hour, a little bit more than an hour, I have just been dedicating to writing. I feel pretty good about it. I have written a little over 1,500 words. No, I have written 1,219 words. I am on chapter 20 out of 25 chapters. I am so very, very close to finishing this book. I am a little over 38,000 words. I guess I need a little more than 12,000 words to finish this, which is perfect because I'm not quite finished with chapter 20. There's a little bit more I need to add of a different scene for this chapter before I move on to chapter 21. Each of these chapters towards the end, I've been making sure they're at least 2,000 words, and I'm doing my best with these final 7 chapters, a lot of stuff is going to need to be changed and rewritten. I don't think it is a lack of outlining or preparing the story in any way. I think, well, I guess technically it would be a lack of plotting out this story, but I think what I need to do is rethink some of the subplots I have in this story and just tighten up some of the plot points, make sure I understand my characters a little bit better. But those are definitely things to worry about in a second draft for me, like personally, because right now I'm just trying to get this story written. But I think once I understand my characters a lot more, the rest of it will start to make a little bit more sense. So I need to focus more on like character motives and then their character arcs, just to make sure it's all fitting within the story. So I think that's why these last 15,000 words have been the most challenging for me, is because I'm letting myself discovery draft my characters. I mean, I did outline them just a little bit, but I think in the future I need to outline them just a little bit more, or maybe not to take such a long break from writing the first half of this manuscript to writing the second half of this manuscript. I think that's also a little bit to do with how I'm feeling, but it's fine. It'll be okay. Today's writing session was pretty successful. Yesterday's writing session was successful too. I met up with Kayla and her and I did one 30-minute sprint and then one 20-minute sprint. So about 50 minutes in total for writing yesterday. I am feeling pretty good. I'm out of practice for sure with the writing consistently, but I will get there. Everything is going to be fine. It'll be okay. Hello, good morning. It is quite a gloomy day out today. I have less than 10,000 words left of this project. I feel like this vlog has been going on for infinity. It has taken me forever to finish this draft, and maybe I should have broken up this vlog into a part 1 and a part 2 so I didn't feel like it dragged on for forever. I feel like I've said multiple times throughout this vlog that I want to finish this draft by the end of this week or by the end of this date, and sometimes things just don't go according to plan. It's a little frustrating considering I have been wanting to finish this draft because I've been wanting to work on another project. While I could have just put this draft on pause and moved on to another project, I decided for myself and for my writing it was much more beneficial if I just sat down and I finished this first draft completely and then moved on to another project. I really didn't want to leave this project unfinished before I moved on to a different project, because I knew if I ever went back to it, if I ever wanted to work on this cozy fantasy again and I hadn't finished this first draft, I would have been a little lost and I would have had to have done a lot more reconstruction. I am determined to finish this first draft because I do want to get it all the way completed. I'm working on it, slow and steady always wins a race. So that's what I will be continuing on with today. I have written a little bit off camera. A lot of my writing, I feel like with this draft, has been off camera and I'm coming to update you guys, but I feel like that's what has been best for this project, towards the tail end of it, and then also trying to hit all of these deadlines that I haven't hit. While I know I will be very happy when this draft is finally finished, I have been enjoying the process, even though I feel like it's been a little bit more of a struggle than my other two projects that, well, a few other projects that I've worked on, but the two other projects I'm mainly talking about is Project Ice and Project Burning Roses. I have written quite a bit. I want to say my total word count is a little over 40,000 words. I want to say I started chapter 21 and I'm into act 3. The bad guys close in. I think that's where this would sit sort of in Save the Cat. I've got my characters are doing their thing. I've realized now with the last few chapters that I have to write, and I think I have 6 more chapters left outlined. I think it's out of 25 or 26 chapters. 25 chapters. And did I say I was on chapter 21? Yeah, that sounds about right. So I have 4 or 5 chapters left to have the final arc of the story, have it all wrapped up. And it feels decently paced. Towards the tail end of Act 2, I have been not so much writing a lot in depth, but more of describing the things that I want to happen in this scene or to happen in that chapter. So it doesn't read so much now as a story. It reads more of an outline. I'm okay with that right now. I think that's what the story needs, and that's what I need to do to get this first draft finished, wrapped up, completed. I feel like I've been working on it for entirely too long and I just want to work on something else. That's how I have been wrapping up this story, and I've been trying to reflect back to Act 1 and Act 2 and try to piece certain things that I've mentioned throughout the story, and I've been trying to wrap those up in this Act 3. Today is gonna be the day that I finish this freaking project. Worked a little bit on my story when I was at work the other day. I made some pretty good progress. I can't remember how much I wrote, but maybe about 1,000 words. And then I wrote last night for a little while too. And I think I wrote about 1,500 words last night, but I am nearing the end of the story. I think I have a little less than 48,000 words, and I want this project to have 50,000 words. So one of my writing friends, she's been following my journey for a while, and it was really funny because she saw one of my Instagram posts or Instagram stories where I was counting down when I was at like 44,000 words and then 46,000 words out of 50. And it was funny because she sent me a message and she was like, or your story might end up with mine and think it's gonna end at 50,000. And then you realize it needs like another 20,000. And I was like, no ma'am. The story is going to end at 50,000 words. There's not another 20,000 words left in me. This project, it has been a journey. I've truly been having fun writing it, but it almost has been going on for too long, and I want to just start working on one of my old projects. Since my manuscript is up, I am at 47,859 words. What is that? A little less than 3,000 words that I have to write for this project. I definitely could finish it all today. I would like to finish it all today because then that means tomorrow I can start my fresh project. I had plans of giving myself a week off before I started one of my other projects and started revisions on that. But quite honestly, I am so ready to jump into working on that project that I'm not going to give myself a break. Project Traveling Bards has been going on for far too long. And I didn't just want to stop writing it. That was a whole other thing. I was talking to one of my writing friends and she had mentioned, well, you can, move on from this project without finishing it. But my problem is I have to finish this story. I just need to write it even if the last little bit of the story is bare bones. Hey, I'm giving an update. Hey, 2 minutes. And then you can play with your jingle ball. So I'm hoping to... You guys just might get the jingle ball in the background. I'm sorry. I know it's gonna be really annoying. I have loved this project. Loved it. However, I need to move on. So that's what I'm hoping to do within the next day. I'm going to be working on chapter 24 out of 25. I think this chapter just has a smidge left to it that I want to jot down. And then chapter 25 should just be a breeze. I already know what I want to happen into that chapter, so that should not be an issue. This is what he's been doing while I was giving him the update. Oh goodness. Sometimes he'll like sit up on the top and bat the ball around. Yeah, you. I finished my project. I finished my story. He doesn't care. I finished it. I finished my first draft of Project Traveling Bards. Oh my gosh. The relief, the peace I feel at finishing this draft is just bizarre. I am so incredibly happy that I made it. I finished the first draft of my first cozy fantasy. So details, because I think it's been a hot minute since we've talked about this project. I needed to finish chapter 25 and then wrap up a little bit of the epilogue. So I had two main characters and they were a brother and a sister. The end of this story, they ended up going separate ways. I wanted to write their two endings. I am proud of it. It definitely is going to need to shape itself later on when I come back and do revisions on this project. Leading up to the sisters ending, there was something that happened to a character. I wasn't exactly vibing with what was going on when I was writing it, but I was like, you know what, it's fine. We'll go ahead and write it. We'll see how this plays out because I can always fix it later. And then when I got to chapter 24 and I was wrapping up the sisters ending and her side of the story, I realized that that was a mistake with what I had done previously. So I ended up steering the story into a different direction with the sisters ending. It turned out a little bit better than what I thought it was going to, which I'm happy about. And then I followed the brothers ending. Now I did a little bit of freestyling here. I had his ending solidified when I was first outlining this story from the very beginning, and it still is very similar to how I had the story ending originally. I freestyled a little bit, did a little bit of pantsing, and I had some fun with that because there was a character that I realized did not need to be a good character. Like, they needed to be more of a villain in this story. So I definitely inserted a character in this last chapter that was nowhere in this story at all. I probably messed that part up. It's okay. I took some notes. I did write some bullet points in there too for the brothers ending, for the brothers chapter, and I ended up wrapping up his side of the story too. How I had it end was where the story started. So when the story started, this isn't a spoiler necessarily, but when the story first opened, the brother and the sister were walking up the steps to the witch's cottage in the woods. And how I have this story ending with chapter 25 is now it's just the brother walking up to the front door of the witch's cottage. I liked that parallel. I was really excited when I was here in the moment writing that. I talked a little bit about the epilogue in my other update, but I did end up finishing a little bit of the epilogue. Well, not a little bit. I finished up the rest of the epilogue because I had written a little bit of it a few days ago, I think last week, and I hadn't finished it, so I came back and I wrote the ending of that. There's a little cat hair on you. Excuse me, pardon. I'm sure you are dying to know what my final word count for this project is. When I originally plotted out this story, I wanted it to have 50,000 words, and each of those chapters were going to have about 2,000 words each. And these chapters definitely fluctuate. Some have a little bit less and some have a little bit more than the 2,000 words. And I ended up writing a prologue and an epilogue, so it ended up being a smidge more than 50,000 words, and my total word count ended up being 50,758 words. That is exactly what I wanted this first draft to be, because it definitely needs a lot of work. There's a lot of potential and I'm really proud of it. I'm more proud of the first half of this story than I am with the second half. You know, writing a story, you just got to get it out and keep revising it, going back to the drawing board, figuring it out until eventually we get a somewhat cohesive story. That is the end of Project Traveling Bards. But what is going to be coming next? So I have two things that I want to do. The first thing is I am going to reread my project from last year, which is Project Ice. I will have some videos coming out of me rereading the first draft of that and coming up with a game plan for revisions of that story. I'll talk more about that story in that video, so definitely keep your eye out for the next video or two I'll be posting. It's going to be about revisions and talking about my other epic fantasy project. And then the second thing I am going to be doing now, since this project is finished, is going through and reevaluating and reassessing my writing and how I feel about this project and what I think I did well with this project and what I think I need to work on. I've done this process with the last 2 projects I've written, where I just kind of reassess where my writing is and what I think did well and what I need to work on for future drafts of this same project, and then also with my writing in general. If you like those kinds of videos, that will be coming up pretty shortly after this video too. We've got quite a few things to be looking forward to now that I have finished this project, and I am excited to start to work on other things and to get into the nitty-gritty of all of the pros and cons of this project. But that is going to conclude this very long vlog. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for sticking with me even though I did not hit the original deadline with this project, but I ended up getting it done. I just needed an extra month. So thank you guys so much for following me on this journey. I will see everybody in the next video, and until then, happy writing. Bye.